For those of us old enough to see different technology cycles, I don't think anything has happened faster than our consciousness on AI. Although AI has been a term used since the late 1950s, I think with the rise of ChatGPT a few years ago, I think it's in everyone's minds. So with this acceleration comes many new questions. I don't have all the answers. I've been in the Valley for over 30 years, my entire life, but working. And I think with today's panel, we're going to have a number of investors, operators, and other thought leaders talking about it. What I wanted to do, and I kind of warned them ahead of time, is that we are here to have open discussion, push back on each other, and have some healthy debate. So with that, I'm going to have quick introductions, starting from the end with Brandon. So just give your name, your company, and a short description of what you're working on or interested in.
So my name is Brandon Berkwam. I am with Ripples, and what we have is a next generation positioning technology that can track any chipped object, car, drone, humanoid, phone, in very precise sub-meter, three-dimensional precision. And that's really critical for the AI-driven machine economy, autonomous economy moving forward.
Wei-Chi.
Hi, my name is Dr. Wei-Qing Gu, a former AI professor and currently CEO of Data to Decision. We develop geometric unified learning, which is explainable, only use 2% data, and it can search and learn simultaneously, overcome current black box solution.
Hi everybody, I'm Kelly Zhou. Just like Wei-Qing, I'm also a former professor. I was professor at Harvard, as well as VP at Pfizer. So I'm the founder of AI for Purpose, which will enable AI therapies using haptics, robotics, as well as sound therapies. And also I'm in drug commercialization, so put the drugs on the market. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Carol Pepper. I'm the CEO and founder of Pepper International. For the last 25 years, I've been setting up family offices for families all over the world and acting as a chief investment officer. Before that, I worked for the Rockefeller family, where I managed over $1 billion for them. And I have a second hat on today because I'm also a partner in an AI group of consultants and startup investors called Trionic Capital. And we're working on AI data centers, which are magically shrinking in size already. We're going to be able to miniaturize these data centers. We won't need 5 football fields somewhere in the woods. So very much looking forward to hearing what everybody has to say at this panel.
Hi, my name is Shekhar. Before I started my company, Orchestro, I was 23 years in corporate, worked for Walt Disney Company, Walmart, Coca-Cola, and PepsiCo. Orchestro is actually developing a virtue native LLM. So think of ChatGPT with a conscience. That's what we're trying to build. We see trust as a big deficit problem to be solved in AI world. And so we're building that layer that every enterprise can work with confidence while using AI systems.
Amazing. Hello everybody, my name is Alan Smithson, and I'm here with my beautiful wife Julie, who's in the crowd as well. And we invented touchscreen technology for the music industry before the iPad came out. And then we built the first metaverse company in the world called Metaverse. And now we're building Unlimited Awesome, a new learning system for the intelligence age, which takes a personalized adaptive AI tutor, an AI course builder, and a unique curriculum that teaches all the things that you learned later in life that you never learned in school. Things like mindfulness, gratitude, positivity, meditation, but also financial literacy, investing, entrepreneurship, and innovation. So very happy to be here. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Michelle Tang. I'm the co-founder of Verity One. It's such an honor in entering this big family here. And today everyone uses AI, but AI, they cannot understand what is truth, what is fake. So we build the system very tested. So the system verify and audits the data before the AI use it. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Dr. Adel Messiri. I have a PhD in AI machine learning. I have been in it since '89. 3 successful exits, 1 unicorn, and I'm here with my partner Nate Golden. We build sovereign modular AI data centers. So to Pepper's point, we are doing them now. So would love to get this conversation. And I do apologize in advance. I'll have to catapult in about 10 minutes.
All right. Well, since Adele has to leave in 10 minutes, I will start the first question. I'll start with Adele. With all the hype of AI, how would somebody who's not as familiar with AI be able to discern what is real and what is hype when it comes to evaluating an AI service or company?
That's an amazing question. So what we have been seeing in the market is a lot of what we call wrappers. Those are projects, systems that wrap around existing APIs without adding real value for it. So first thing that you should do as an investor is peel the onion and figure out if they own something in the stack of value. If they are simply doing prompt engineering, that might not be a big value inflection for you. The second that I want to emphasize on is that AI landscape is changing dramatically, meaning that while the current focus is on learning, which requires a lot of GPU power in it, you have to think that the new breed of applications that are being used will focus on inference. Inference requires much less compute power, hence it will be distributed. The question then is, how close are you to your clients in the sense of delivering that compute power to them? And then finally, I would look at things that are bringing newer values, not simply adding AI into the mix and calling it a new project.
Yeah, thanks, Adele. It's kind of funny how people after the blockchain run up then switched all their pitch decks to include AI. Just to keep the theme, because I know Carol is also involved with modular data center. I'm going to go over to you next, Carol.
Yeah, I think what's going to start happening is you're not going to need massive, massive data centers very, very quickly and massive amounts of GPU. The chips themselves are evolving faster. The chips are going to start depreciating in value quicker, even though they're still massively expensive. So what does that mean? That means you're going to start seeing, and we're already working with a company doing this, literally AI data center in a container. You know, like for the container ship, that small. Just like when IBM first, came out with computers, they took football fields and now they're on our phones. That revolution is happening much more quickly in AI, much quicker than it did with compute power. So be very wary of massive, huge developments. They're going to quickly become obsolete. And I also think, again, because I also look at these investments for the families, look for things that are very specialized to industries, as Tony was talking about. So if there are regulatory barriers, if there are important pharma considerations or particular country rules that have to be followed, that's a barrier to entry. AI is not that different than any other business. So obsolescence, miniaturization, and specialization are all happening very, very quickly.
Okay. Anyone else on the modular data center? On the modular data center? Because I was going to ask a question to the audience. How many people are aware enough of the data center capacity for AI and the need for, right, everyone's, okay. So I'm going to go to Wei Qing and then I'm going to summarize and we'll go on to the next question. So
I think fundamentally we need to understand the mathematics behind it, how you can generate so many fake data, deep fake, big deep voice. If you understand the math behind it, you immediately can see and can detect this is a fake voice because they use certain Gaussian distributions. You build it and you can detect it. Use just advanced mathematics.
All right, and so I'm going to have thank you, Wei Qing. I'm going to have a little different take because I used to procure data centers for large tech companies. I do agree with Carol and Adele that there will be a need for modular data centers. A lot of people are doing funds around that. You're going to see it all the time. But I don't want people to think that the hyperscalers are going away because you wouldn't have Meta building a data center in Ohio bigger than the size of Manhattan, right? Think about that. So that's not going away. But but it is very important that we understand the difference, and there's a huge market for modular data centers. So next question, I'm going to go to Alan, because Alan and his wife are committed to revolutionizing learning. If you follow my Facebook, a couple of years ago, my daughter was entering university. People thought I was nuts. I actually posed to her a question pitching me why she should still go to university in the rise of AI. So I think you're going to have a very unique perspective. And if others have thoughts on learning when it comes to AI, I want you to jump in.
Thank you very much, Keith. You know, we grew up in an era where education was standard for everybody. If you were in grade 6, you were in a class full of people your age, and the only reason you were all in that class is because you lived within a mile of each other. And education pushed you through whether you were really good at math and really poor at English. It didn't matter. They pushed you through. And AI gives us a new opportunity to unlock individual powers at the speed at which people learn. Individual students can have a personalized learning experience on learning anything they want. And when you go to a classroom, your teacher's probably not the best in the world at what they do, but it turns out with these massive large language models that they are PhD level in every subject. So if you can have a PhD level tutor in math and science, in astrophysics, whatever it is you want, it turns out that this is going to be an incredible opportunity for learning, but not just for the students, but for the teachers in the world, because now they don't have to answer all these questions. The students don't feel uncomfortable raising their hand. They can just ask AI. It gives them the answers. It's infinitely empathetic with the students. So really excited about this opportunity is that this new technology unlocks for students and for the world, because now you can do anything.
So long as it teaches you the right thing, I think.
And what is the right thing?
Exactly. So we were doing, shameless plug, I have the world's third best podcast in tech. And so we were running studies on longevity. And there's all kind of hype saying that people can live up to 300 years. The question is yes, but what are you going to do with it? And part of the study was we were trying to figure out what are the downstream implications. And so we went and figured use ChatGPT and other tools. And it said women after the age of 45, 20% of women will have Alzheimer's. If you just took that by face value, then you're thinking that every woman at the age of 45, 20% of them are going to have Alzheimer's, which is wrong. What it actually did was it actually collected tokens from different places and created its own inference, saying that that's the truth and reality. If people begin to think that's the reality, then kids are going to be disoriented, right? So how do we ensure what is being taught is really the actual education that needs to be taught in the first place?
That's a good
and
point.
how do you develop curiosity?
You know, it's interesting you say that, because we developed 3 parts to our product. It's a personalized AI tutor, an AI course builder, so you can take any subject and put it in. But the last part was a curriculum. And we call it the human flourishing curriculum, and things like mindfulness and setting goals and fitness and nutrition and all the things that school doesn't teach you. And we didn't get involved in teaching science and math.
Gentlemen,
and history.
Adele's going to go in a moment, so go ahead, Adele.
So last thing that I want to part you with is this is a perfect example of how you discern between real investments, real value of things that are using AI models to help students grow, of how to get empathetic in AI. Those are worthy causes for those. And the last thing is I'm quite happy seeing those, because they're going to all run on my micro AI data centers with Prepar. So thank you very much. You have been really great.
Give your mic to Alan. Thanks.
Yeah,
Right,
I
Adele.
just want to chime in on that as well. I think there's a very big danger that we don't want to talk about, which is what AI thinks of humans, right? And you see all the sci-fi movies about this, that we're irrational, we're angry, we're tearing all the infrastructure of the entire planet apart right now over in the Middle East over a war. What is AI going to think of that, and when are they going to decide that we are obsolete and that we are actually the problem? If the value becomes the utility of the human being for the AI development, that's a very different utility than the utility of a human-centered AI, which is what Shankar is trying to create. But that question is very open right now. There are no global consensus guardrails about the role of human beings in AI, which are rapidly surpassing our intelligence.
Well, let's pause. I do want to get to the risks of AI. I don't want to get into AGI, which is artificial general intelligence, where people do believe that machines become sentient and then take over. So that's not this panel. So we're not gonna go there. But I do want to get to Kelly and Michelle because both of you work in this space.
Yeah, so first of all, last year, all the universities are trying to catch cheaters. So trying to see if AI wrote their essays. This year, they're actually very worried. The deans are thinking about AI-proof your career. What are the careers that cannot be replaced by AI? So here, important ones are creativity, connectivity, and also build opportunities. So for example, we can connect the students into, there's in New York City where I come from, there's a Tech New York City where venture capital companies are funding the student internships. So we actually got a couple of student interns this summer, fully paid by the investors. So I would say in education, it's really important for students to think about not to be afraid of AI, but work with AI.
Got it. Michelle.
So I want to talk about the verification of the data. AI is so fast, she just repeat what the data you feed in. If the data not correct, AI not only make mistake, they will be amplify it. So MIT proved that in January 2025, AI uses 34% more confident language when it is wrong than it is right. 47% the executive made major decision last year based on the HoloLens AI contents. 67% the VC firms use AI to deal screen to make a decision, find the mistake of the 3.7 weeks later. That's why the data audit verify is so important. And Veritas build the system. And later I will be explain how works. I give time to the others now.
Yeah, great points, everybody. And Brandon, we're going to get you in a second. But just to wrap up this part of it, using AI if any of you come out of banking, large banks? All right. So in large banking, we've been governing AI for over 20 years. It's called model risk management. And the key here is that all of us can use AI, but you really don't know what's true without verification. So in the bank, you have to validate the model by testing the data. So Michelle's bringing up a really good point that data is actually the underpinning of AI. AI is nothing without accurate data. And so the risk which we're switching to, the question is, how do you ensure that when you use AI, you're actually getting the right data? That was the question Shekhar posed to Alan, who's on education, is like, how do we know that what's being trained in absence of teachers, that the actual information is correct? I would think, Brandon, it's going to be an interesting segue to what you're building, because you're doing basically drones, which is autonomous, which is an operating system, not drones, but you're doing the operating system. How do you ensure that you're not going to hallucinate?
Yeah, no. So one way that we think about the world is physical AI, right? And that's cars, drones, humanoids, people, things that are actually physical, right? And we can't have hallucinations because that would be bad if you're using AI to control traffic flows, right? Just flow orchestration of everything. You kind of need to know where those things are. Otherwise, if things collide, that's bad, right, for everybody. And so the way we look at our positioning technology is we're able to provide a ground truth of where things are actually at that the AI for the physical world can think from. It can be, the logic can be built from. And so we really look at ourselves as critical infrastructure for the physical AI that is going to enable all sorts of models and applications to process from. And so I think, it's really different than LLMs, which are really non-deterministic in nature. We're getting into more of it has to be deterministic with, starting with the core data, which is where are things at, right? And so that's where we sit at. So yeah, I think knowing ground truth is extremely important when it comes to physical AI.
Shekhar, you look like you want to jump in.
Well, I always want to jump in. Sorry, sorry. No, so I think if you were to ask Gemini or any other chat tool about 6 months ago, it would say put glue on pizza. Because there was the Reddit rant 12 years ago, which said like, the guy was complaining about like the cheese falling off of the pizza, and there was like, they said like, oh, why don't you put like glue on it? So like, it was recommending that. So if you're actually trying to create an institutional model that like most enterprises have to teach, the corpus of data is very important. How you score the data is very important. How you bring perception into the data is very important, right? And so understanding the tensions is very important. And being able to say like, the decisions are human-centric. So how do I simulate the human behavior? How do humans think? So I think, we are missing like all those fundamental pieces in the discussion. And it begins to think also that like, like Elon Musk is more athletic than LeBron James is. Because like Elon Musk can change the model overnight.
Well, because Elon can influence what X says about Elon. Yeah.
Exactly, right? So if a CEO can, imagine, right? If a CEO can influence all the decisions, and some of those are bad decisions, then enterprises are sitting on bad decisions and the next CEO's ass is online.
Right. Hey, I think Wei Qing's going to jump in and we'll go to you, Alan. Wei Qing, were you going to say something?
Yes. I think the most important thing is not only get the ground truth, you also have, say, for example, in healthcare, you cannot just use large model training, which the solution is not explainable, doctor cannot accept. The most important thing is every AI make the decision need to have a doctor as a human in loop, verify. Then your system has to build it. Every time doctor verifies, your system improve. Then if it's wrong, then penalize your system. So it is not just a large language model black box solution. You need to incorporate mathematically cleverly that how doctor in loop make the whole system gets better and better. And it also has to be personalized, because if it's not personalized, then this person's voice, say I use voice detected disease, some voice person born to be low, weak, does not mean that person has a depression.
And Dr. Wei Qing is talking about training your data accurately. Alan, you were going to come back.
Well, a large way that the data was verified is through reinforcement learning from humans. And humans were saying yes, no, and they were giving this. One of the ways that we're kind of addressing this is that we've assembled, I guess, a large group of mentors. Actually, some of them are here. Hadi's a mentor here, and Craig Evans in the back there. And we've got a number of mentors around the world. Right now we're at 190 world-class mentors that have been around the block, that have built things that we use every day and things that we do every day. And so by having that council, if you would, of mentors, it's not just about the AI kind of giving the information, but we're also leaning on really, really smart humans to impart the knowledge into the next generation. So that's one way we're trying to validate that and not just use the AI, but also give human-led flourishing learning.
Thanks, Alan. Brandon?
Yeah, just one other thing on training physical AI in a similar manner is, training physical AI to recognize patterns of flow across time is going to be extremely important. I think just kind of bringing it back to the data center side real quick and the chips is, if you can know where things are at in the world from the network, which is what we do, right? We integrate into telecom networks, and from the telecom networks you can identify where things are at, as opposed to like a Tesla using a camera. You're able to basically abstract 30 to 50% of the compute power needed to just localize where something is at. You can abstract that away. That frees up that power to now repurpose that towards how to best flow orchestrate the physical world. And so I think there's a lot of, whether we're talking physical AI or we're talking more specific LLM type AI, I think the closer you can get to a solid source of data, you're going to increase your efficiency across the whole compute chain.
Thanks. And I wanted to go back to my critique of other industries that they don't have model risk management, that when you're using AI, the general LLMs, ChatGPT, you have no control over what comes back to you. So it's kind of like a mirror. Whatever you want to get back is going to give it to you. That's why it becomes really important to be able to validate and test your data, which is why you want unbiased. Biases in itself are not wrong. It's just that you need to have the ability to identify the bias and program it out. Here's something that I'm not sure any of you heard of. So most people know I'm a person of faith. Would you believe that the Chinese AI models are much more unbiased towards faith-based discussions than any of the large Western models. Yeah, a study came out 2 weeks ago in the South China Post that running DeepSeek or Qwen natively on your own server is much more fair and unbiased when it comes to anything related to faith. So this is like what you see may not be what you might not be true. And I wanted to continue on that thread back to Michelle because you're talking about the data. So why is it that the data is so important in this discussion?
Yeah, because the AI is so fast. If the data without the audit, it's just the fast black box. You know, if you make a mistake, they can make a fast mistake. So we build the solution from the beginning. You put your data in, and then where data from your roots original, your website, the IP address, and our AI system check your everything, who is your when create your company, what is your IP address. The second step, we use the chain anchor. So validate data, we use blockchain and record your company, nobody can change it. And then the third step, we prove it. When certification issued, we don't need to say, trust me, we prove it. You don't need to call someone, you can go to records and then bureau, you just go XRP ledge, all the information recorded in there, nobody can change it.
Kelly.
So we often in the European regulatory space, they actually have something called the data life cycle. So we think about a subject, a human, like a patient, that's a life cycle. And then we look at the drug development, a drug as life cycle. So these are the units. But now the data point is a unit. So you go through the cycle, which at the end, it's the feedback loop of enhancing the data accuracy. So in fact, I published a couple of articles that there's a scheme that we came up with, which is called Attractor. Attractor, that A stands for accuracy. Then you also look at the truthfulness and all kinds of dimensions of data. So the European regulator has several different dimensions to measure the accuracy and the reliability of the data, and then before you apply the algorithms.
So I wanted to ask the question to the group, and not everyone has to answer, but what do you think ultimately AI does to the labor market? Because there's a lot of discussion about disruption in the workforce. What do you think the net effect is going to be? And anyone who wants to jump in can start. Wei-Ching?
I think being an AI expert or professional, we need to use AI, create a job instead of take the jobs away. Currently, the chance is always basically take the jobs away. But why you can do that? It's because anything mechanical, coding, you have a program, then AI can do it. So we needed to make it more creative. So even the education part, I think needed to teach the student to follow their passion, because we have so many AIs. Each student, you have several AI, teach them. If follow his passion, he will be creative. Creative, he will create jobs. So that's why I think we should focus AI jobs.
Yeah, I think before we get to the job part, we got to think about like why are people even working jobs, right? It's all a grand scheme of resource management and allocation. That's really what it comes down to, right? And so I think these systems are and especially with the physical AI systems, when it comes to resource management and allocation, I think that's really where the heart of it is, and how positioning technology ties into that is if you don't have superior positioning technology, things like collisions happen, and that minimizes transactions. So actually one of the things we talk about as far as, the Web3 economy and tokenizing real world transactions is, better positioning is going to be the key to scaling real world tokenization and number of transactions and just overall market liquidity. So, yeah.
So go Shekhar, then Kelly, then Carol.
I think in the next 4 to 5 years, 10% unemployment is something that we shouldn't be shocked about.
That's too little.
I know, but I think it can that's why I said you should not be shocked about that number. And the way we define GDP, the way we define unemployment, all of that has to fundamentally change because of what's happening right now. If you look at what's going on with OpenClaw and the ability to code generating code, it's mind-boggling. what used to take like 20 people, now you could do it like with half a guy in a sleep in 3 hours, you know? So I think it fundamentally shifts the economy from like what we know as like white collar jobs and like how people are trained. But it also creates an opportunity like in places elsewhere, like, you know, how do you manage risk? How do you manage trust? How do you like, you know, think about hardware? Like, you know, these kinds of problems, I think there are going to be more jobs, but we are not like, as a society, trained to actually go after those things.
If only there was a system for that.
What is that?
If only there was a system for that.
Yeah.
Kelly, go ahead.
So I see two different perspectives. One is from efficiency point of view. Sam Altman basically said that intelligence is going to be utility, and then someday you're going to buy that utility. So then the society is thinking about gig economy. So people are doing here, doing there, and essentially from quantum mechanics, everything is like packets of quantums. So I think job as it is not going to be continuum, holistic thing that can be packaged into different pockets. But then, since this is family offices, I also see compassion. Okay, so when I went to my hometown, Shanghai, I was really shocked. Everything is very automated, and then you suddenly see elevator operator. You go into the elevator, you don't do anything, you tell them, I want floor X, and then they'll press that button. That's their all-day job. So I think that there is a clash, which is to make everything efficient, automated. At the same time, as a society as a whole, we have obligations to make people have a living, and then they have the basic standard of living. So I see both sides.
I think it's one thing that I think is very interesting is the amount of time people are spending on social media. But stop being a watcher versus being a participant. And I think what's going to have, and I see this with young people a lot, they're hours and hours watching other people doing things on social media. I believe that's going to become a job, a paid job. So there will be people that will be creating things, making things, because they're the creators, just like there are sports teams and spectators. But the spectators are going to get paid as much as the sports team, because you're going to need the spectators to sell the product, and it's all going to be put together, because all these young people do not want to work. All they want to do is sit on their phone all day and watch. So that's going to end up, I predict that's going to be a job. So gaming, online sports, all this sports betting.
Isn't this the scene out of the movie WALL-E?
Wally.
Yes, I don't know, but I'm telling you, I think that that's the direction it's going to go.
And Carol, we'll talk about it offline, but have you heard of Moltbook yet?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, wait see.
So there's not going to be jobs that you think for the social media, because the bots will do it for them.
Well, even better, right? Then they won't even have to watch.
Yeah.
But
Hang on,
they'll still
Alan.
get
I just
paid.
want to make sure. Michelle, did you want to jump in, or you're okay?
I just add a little bit. You said was the verified data so important. Anyone experience that you have the Conon website or people scam you money? I myself is a data scientist. I use AI, go to search, and one website pop out. You look at this company before, how much data wallet, how many partner. They ask you, verify you're human. When you go to do, they ask your terminal. They go to your computer and then kill you everything. That's so important. Today, no one website that can read about the AI. So we are revolution, build the trusted infrastructure.
Got it. And earlier, a month ago, there was this hype about bots creating their own social media. And in order to be validated as a bot versus a human, you had to click like 10,000 times in a very short amount of time. Go ahead, Alan. I'm being serious about that, Carol, so we'll talk about it afterwards.
Prove you're not a human. Yeah.
The humans were excluded.
Yeah, exactly.
The humans could only observe, and the bots had like basically validate you're a bot by being able to do something 10,000 times in a very short amount of time. Wow. Like a CAPTCHA.
I think the key with this transition between where we are now and where we're going is retraining people to think in terms of holistic, in terms of, you know, really celebrating what makes us human. The ability to get together, to host events. We're starting to see already, you know, Burning Man style events pop up all around the world so that people can get back to the roots of, you know, tribalism, where they dance together and we create art together and we learn together and we love together. And I think that is really the key of this transition. And since this is an investment summit, I would be remiss not to tell you guys that we're launching a token, and we're right now in private sale for Unlimited Awesome. So if anybody is interested in participating in the private sale for Unlimited Awesome, please see me afterwards. and it's unlimitedawesome.com. Thanks for the plug.
So as we close, thanks for the plug. As we close, I just want to say this. AI is definitely not theoretical, it's operational. There is a lot of risk involved with AI. That's kind of where the theme of today has been. What I think is going to happen, though, is for the crypto and Web3 people out there, you know, a decade ago, we were talking about trustless transactions. How do we not interact with people? And to a number of the panelists, what they've said is we think we're going to go back to more direct relationship in order to validate that we're actually doing business with a real person. So I think that's going to be the dichotomy and as we just move forward in technology. So once again, I want to thank Anthony for hosting the conference, Cal for being the MC, and all the panelists. Thank you.
A puzzle with pity, stealing the